Heyo everybody, my name is Kayz and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be redesigning my channel banner art because, well, just look at my last one. It's very bland, to say the least. It's just an empty void of brick with my neon sign logo and an old outdated drawing I reused from previous designs of Duncan's decapitated head and tail floating around. This is okay for most devices that you would use for watching YouTube because the long boy rectangle cuts off most of the drawing. But it does not look good if you look at the TV to watch YouTube because you see the whole thing. And that's no good. So I'm going to redesign the banner in a way that looks good on all technological devices. And also keep it up to date with my style and make sure that it shows more about my channel, because the channel banner is the first thing that someone sees when they visit your channel, and it's important to design it well, like a movie cover or an advertisement. So let's get into the speed paint. So this was a very tricky drawing to do. You'll see that throughout the speed paint, I was changing Duncan's pose over and over, and almost getting what I wanted before I completely scrapped everything and started over again. It was actually kind of frustrating at times to work on, and I had to take a few breaks while working on this to do other things or just, not be productive at all. The reason why this was so tricky to draw was because the dimensions of the YouTube banner is very overcomplicated. If you see these rectangles in the middle that I put there, those are little templates that I made based on a template I found online explaining how it all works, which I'll leave a link in the description if you guys want to do something similar to for your own channel. There is a website in particular that I used that explains everything pretty well. So basically in the middle you have 3 long rectangles on top of each other, and then of course you have a big rectangle surrounding it all. The smallest rectangle is the minimum dimensions you can have for a desktop YouTube banner, and is also what people see on their phones. The next step up from that is what tablet users are supposed to be able to see, and then the longest rectangle is the maximum dimensions that will fit on a desktop background. The rest of the space, the big fat rectangle that surrounds it all, is, as I've said before, what TV users see. So my challenge here was to make a channel banner that would look appealing and be effective branding and advertising the mumbo jumbo for all devices, not just one device like my other channel banner was. At the same time, I also wanted to brand it better and add things to it to make it more obvious that I'm an artist with an art channel who enjoys cartoons and art stuff and such. So back to the reason why this was so frustrating and hard to get the posing right is because I was trying to find an appealing pose for Duncan that would fit inside the smallest rectangle where all the devices can see, while also still having the pose be fun and interesting. I didn't just want to have Duncan's head and tail in this one, I wanted his whole body in order to make it more obvious that he's a Drake. Especially because in the other images I use on my channel for branding, I don't typically include much under his shoulders. I tried having him lay down, which fit nicely in the frame, but it looked too static and boring to me. So I tried some other poses, but those were just not working out for me either. So I stopped for a bit and came back to it a bit later, except this time I sketched out the different potential poses on paper, since I find it easier to sketch stuff on paper than on my tablet. So I made a few sketches for different potential poses. One of him sitting down, one of him holding a sign, one of him laying down on his back with some pens in his mouth, one of him jumping or running with a tablet, which is a pose a friend of mine suggested, and 2 others. One of him doing a blep, and one of him wearing clothes too big for him. Those last 2 had nothing to do with what I was trying to do for the banner, but I just kind of felt like drawing those ones. Out of these poses, the one I decided to choose was the pose of Duncan holding a sign. This is because, as you might have noticed throughout the speed paint, I was going to add the words speed paints and animations in order to make it clear that the main things I do on this channel are speed paints and animations, especially because this is something that was severely lacking in my last banner. And really, with my last banner, you wouldn't be able to tell that my art channel is an art channel. You would just see a dragon and a neon sign I thought it would be cute if instead of these words being in another neon sign like I was initially going to do, that Duncan would be holding a sign that says that instead. That way, he also has a purpose on the banner other than just standing there and looking cute. However, I also really liked the one of him lying down on his back with some pen in his mouth. I was close to picking this one, and it might be something I might use in the future. The reason why I didn't pick it is because A, I wanted to use the head on the sketch where Duncan was sitting down, since that was a more complete sketch, and I wouldn't have to draw his head again. So it would be easy to put that sketch on the sketch of him holding the sign, and B, because of the whole Duncan holding the sign thingy-majiggy that I already went on a tangent about just a second ago. So now that I finally decided upon a pose, the hardest part was now out of the way, and I could make the actual drawing itself. I didn't add pupils at first, which kind of looks creepy, because I was drawing him bigger than he would be on the actual banner to make it easier to draw him. So I didn't know where his eyes would be looking until I actually positioned him properly on the banner itself. Drawing him big like this also made it hard to shrink down while still having layers and stuff, so I had to merge the layers first and then do the lighting layer while it was shrunk down, meaning the lighting also goes over the top of his outlines a bit. The reason why I had to add the lighting after is because I wanted to add a spotlight on him, and I didn't want that light to be distorted through shrinking it, which would have messed up its soft look. I thought it would be cool to have him in a spotlight, not only to add more lighting, since not much light comes from a neon sign, but also to make it easier for me to shade and stuff. When shrinking him down, the lines also looked really bad and pixely, so I had to thicken them up with a FX in Ibis Paint X called Outer Stroke, which just adds an outline on your drawing layer that you chose. I also used this FX in my other drawing of King and Kangaroo and Wally Wallaby, where you can see how it works more clearly. If you look closely at the outlines in this drawing, there's a red stroke around them, and that's because of Outer Stroke. Except for in that drawing, I didn't use Outer Stroke in order to thicken up the outlines. I used Outer Stroke to make it look more retro and more authentic to old cartoons, since it's meant to take place in the 1920s, which, if you haven't seen my video on this speed paint of this drawing where I explain my whole process on how I made this look old, then I will leave an iCard up in the right corner so you can go check that out if you want. For this drawing though, like I said, I made it black instead of red so that it would blend in with the rest of the outline I did and just make it look like a thicker outline. Once Duncan was done, I finished up with adding some extra details, which includes some of my art and cartoon characters to serve as examples of my work and what I do. Some chalk doodles on the wall, not only to emphasize artiness, but also because I still wanted to include the tablet or pens that my friends suggested that I add onto the banner, so I added them in through chalk doodles on the wall. These chalk doodles include the pencil I draw with that is snapped in half and taped together, my eraser, my computer tablet, my computer tablet's pen, my other tablet pen for my other tablet that isn't a computer drawing tablet, it's just like a regular tablet, an alcohol marker, the word art, and a special paw print. I won't say why it's special though, it's just special, trust me. I also decided to skew my logo and to make it more fun and interesting looking, as well as add in a floor for Duncan to stand on, because that's another suggestion that my friend made. I was too lazy to draw the texture of the floor here, which would have been pavement, so I decided to use Ibis Paint X's textures to make it instead. I also used this texture for the brick walls that I normally have in my branding stuff. And yes, I realized that with all the times I'm mentioning the features that I use in Ibis Paint X, it's really sounding like this is sponsored, but it's not. Don't sue me. After I added in the textures, I modified the floor texture to have the perspective on it, and added some lighting reflections from the neon sign and the spotlight. I also added some chalk on the ground to go with the chalk doodles, and finally I added the same texture that I used for the ground and put it also on top of the bricks. And with that, the drawing was done. I formatted this so that on the phone and tablet you would see Duncan, the chalk drawings, and my logo. On the computer you would see the drawings on the right and left, and on the TV you would see the big drawings on the top and the rest of the floor. I'm happy with how this turned out, though I plan on updating this every now and then with like new drawings and maybe to fix some of the textures and the lighting, anything, but for now, I think this looks good. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please feel free to leave any critiques. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts. Well, with that being said and finally done with, this banner was a pain to make, but I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you do, please feel free to check out my other videos. I do speed paints, I do animations, and I do more. And if you really like what you see, then why not subscribe and ring a ding ding that notification bell below to get notifications for when I release new videos onto my channel. I hope you all had a fantastic day. God bless, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.